very quietly and patiently is videotaping everything. Yeah. He's the one who organizes everything at the beginning and at the end. He cleans everything up. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, do you need to test or anything? Okay. Okay, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Nahmaduhu wa nusalli ala rasulihil kareem. So, looking at this command, what did you think of the exercise? What was it like? Did you enjoy it? Well, it was difficult. Why? Yeah. Yeah, we're not used to it. We're not used to saying nice things to each other, right? Yeah. Absolutely. That's part of the point. I used to do this exercise a long time ago with some of my younger students. Like, it would be a circle of boys, and all the boys would start crying because they're not even used to people being nice to them, right? So yeah. Now keep in mind, how serious is this? This is the third command. Okay. Long before Allah tells us even to pray, you know how important prayer is. Long before that, Allah is telling us to do this. Long before He's telling us to do any of the pillars. Long before Ramadan, long before Hajj, He's telling us to do this. That's how much of a priority this is. Okay. So think about that. Yes.
In our translation, it says prophet.
In parentheses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does that imply that is it just?
This is okay, very important question. So in your translations, you'll see it says prophet in parentheses. Basically, what some translators do is that if the grammar is singular, they'll read it as though it's addressed specifically to the prophet, peace be upon him. If the grammar is plural, then they won't mention that. So the first command, Ya ayyuhan nasu u'budu rabbakum, or Ya ayyuhan nas, the right there is plural, u'budu is plural, rabbakum is plural, right? Whereas here, the grammar is singular. So naturally, the primary addressee is going to be the prophet, peace be upon him. Right? But essentially, the only time where it's exclusively for the prophet, peace be upon him, is if it says, O prophet. Right? So, for example, the rules of marriage, right, in Surah Al-Ahzab, there the prophet is specifically being addressed. Okay? So, yeah. Yes?
And on that note, if the earlier commands were in plural, and this is, why is it in singular?
Why do you think? What would be the wisdom that we can gather by the fact that here it's singular? Yeah, he's speaking to you directly, one by one. Right? Think about that. I think it's pretty neat. What is the effect of doing this? If we make this our regular practice, what will be some of the benefits? If fulfilling this command. I mean, we're not always going to be holding each other in circles or anything like that, but saying to each other, may Allah reward you, saying to each other, you'll have gardens, so forth and so on. What will be some of the effects of this?
We'll always be conscious of what we're doing.
So one important thing is we'll be conscious of what we're doing. Absolutely. What else will we benefit?
Well, if one person is saying to another person, you get used to it. So every time you see that person, you have a positive outcome.
Yeah, it's positive reinforcement of each other. Think about, why do we say assalamu alaikum to each person? Okay, the Prophet, peace be upon him, says what? If you want to spread love, give the salam to each other. Even think about, what does assalamu alaikum mean? It means peace be upon you. Deeper than that, what does it mean? I think in the Sunday school students, I think we covered it yesterday. What does it mean? Do you remember? Not paying attention in class. Okay. What does assalamu alaikum, what does it mean?
May Allah give you, Allah give you peace.
Yeah.
For me, it means just Allah says to me, Allah says to me.
Okay, exactly. Very good. So you were paying attention. Alhamdulillah. Okay. So when we are saying assalamu alaikum, if we spell it like this, assalamu alaikum, literally it is peace be upon you. Right? But as-salam is what? This is one of the names of Allah. Right? So if I'm saying assalamu alaikum to you, what else am I saying? May the peace of Allah be upon you. It becomes a dua. Right? So what are we taught? That if you want to spread love among the community, you wish each other the salam. The difficulty is that it's become so much of our culture that it's just habit. You only notice it when someone doesn't say it. Right? Right? If I just started everything with saying hi, then you're going to think something is strange, right? So try to make this your practice. Looking at this as an instruction from Allah, try to make it your practice, if it already is not there, of wishing each other, may Allah reward you in some capacity. It doesn't mean you have to say it every single time, right? But try to make it your normal practice. Either jazakallah, jazakillah, jazakumullah, or something else, barakallahu fikum, something along those lines. It doesn't even have to be in Arabic, right? Wish each other. So what else are you doing? What are you doing? You're keeping conscious of your actions. You're giving each other positive reinforcement. What else are you doing? You're also reminding each other of the akhirah. Okay? Especially in our society, what is the akhirah? The afterlife. It's very easy to forget the afterlife. It's very hard even sometimes to think about the afterlife. So you're also reminding each other about this. Okay? Third command of the Quran. Now, we'll look at 26 and 27, inshallah, and then we'll stop here. One of the criticisms that the opponents of the Prophet gave him, one of the criticisms that the Quraysh gave to the Prophet, peace be upon him, was, what kind of book is this? Okay? Allah is so majestic, yet your book talks about bugs, it talks about spiders, it talks about bees, all these insignificant things. Okay? For them, this is beneath God to talk about all of these things. Okay? And as we know, there's a surah called Spider, Al-Ankabut. There's a surah called An-Naml. What's An-Naml? The ant. An-Nahl, the bee, right? All these insignificant things. And so the response that the Prophet, peace be upon him, received was, it is not beneath Allah, or Allah does not shy from giving examples from something essentially as small as a gnat, as a bug, or even something above that. Okay? It is not beneath Allah to give you examples using these things. What does that seem to mean? What do you think, Muhammad Ali?
Well, first, Allah doesn't miss any details.
Yeah.
And we've been told several times throughout the Quran, look around you, the signs are right.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't Allah miss?
Yeah. So one point is that Allah does not miss any detail. Everything Allah is aware of. In addition, just like she said, look around, look at all the signs. Allah is going to use these things, just like He speaks of clouds, just like He speaks of mountains, just like He speaks of trees. He's also speaking of bugs. They're also the signs of God. Another way that this is commonly read is that in terms of the knowledge in our tradition, it's available for everybody. Okay? That this is accessible to everybody. You don't have to be someone of super advanced education to understand the deen, the religion. You can be someone who knows almost nothing, and you can understand the religion. Okay? It's that simple, it's that straightforward. Yes?
Probably another reason is, although they're so insignificant, for example, the ants.
Nice point, yeah.
There's so much to learn.
Yeah.
The social system,
Uh-huh.
how effective they do, the hierarchy.
Yeah.
How, for example, the jobs are so defined.
This is another important point, that we have these passages in the Quran that speaks about how do they organize themselves. And so these things that we might regard as completely insignificant, they are very significant. Even in our society today, when we're talking about the environment, we speak about what happens if all the bees die. Then if all the bees die, then in a few years everything else is going to die, because the bees are so central for our environment. So even these things that seem to be tiny, they are not insignificant, even if looking at them in our environment. There's another important point here. This is where a lot of agnostics get stuck. Right? What is an agnostic? It's someone who says, I don't know. I don't know if there is a God or if there's not a God. And one place where a lot of agnostics get stuck is, and this is from my own experience, meaning knowing quite a few agnostics, is they'll say that, okay, I don't pray to God because it's beneath God to talk to me. And they'll ask, well, where are you getting this from? Right? Why are you making that opinion? Just like the Quraysh were saying, okay, it's beneath God to talk about these things because God is so high. So you find many agnostics making these exact types of points. That if there's a God, okay, there's no point in prayer because it's beneath God to be connected with humans. But our tradition is saying no. Right? Our tradition is saying absolutely speak to God. God is closer to you than even the vein in your neck. Okay? So the other problem here is that a lot of times people have preconceived notions about who or what Allah is. Another difficulty that the Quraysh had, the people in Mecca had, was they did not believe that Allah was Ar-Rahman. They had no problem believing that Allah was Ar-Rahim. What is Ar-Rahim? Eternally merciful. What is Ar-Rahman? Most merciful, but putting them together, merciful for everyone. The Quraysh had difficulty with this, because how could God, from their perspective, how could God be so merciful to a slave? How could God be so merciful to someone who is poor? How could God be so merciful to women? Right? They don't like women in their society. Okay? And we're saying that Allah gives mercy to everyone. Okay? Believer, non-believer, Allah has mercy for everyone. Okay? So even the Quraysh had difficulty with some of the attributes of Allah. And that's one of the functions of the Quran, is not only to speak of Allah as one, but what are the attributes of Allah. And so, the next line, we have our core, most basic relationship with the Quran. فَأَمَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا فَيَعْلَمُونَ أَنَّهُ الْحَقُّ مِنْ رَبِّهِمْ. As for those who believe, okay, they know that this is the truth from their Rabb. What is your most basic relationship with the Quran? You regard it as truth. I may not know what it means. I may not be sure what it means. I may not understand passages, but I still regard the whole thing as truth. Okay? So look at that as your most basic relationship with the Quran, that I regard the whole thing as truth. Okay? But what do you make sense of this next line? وَأَمَّا الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا. So as for those who have rejected, فَيَقُولُونَ, they say, مَاذَا أَرَادَ اللَّهُ بِهَذَا مَثَلًا. So what does Allah intend with these analogies, these metaphors? So the people who have rejected are saying, what is Allah trying to say here? What is Allah trying to say with these metaphors? What do you think? People who have rejected. Here, this is almost a gesture of mocking. These are people who have rejected. Okay? They've already decided, I don't believe this. And now they're saying, well, what is God trying to say here? Right? You will see this, especially among today, a lot of the atheist preachers. Like, if you're familiar with Bill Maher, Christopher Hitchens, Richard Dawkins, when they speak about religion, they speak about religion often in a very, very mocking way. Their arguments are usually not very strong. But they make fun of religion, saying you basically have to be a fool to believe in religion. Okay? If you're smart, you believe in science, not religion. But if you believe in religion, you're foolish. But they will ask questions like this. Well, what is God trying to say here? But they are not interested in the answer. Because who are these people? What does it say? They've already rejected. It's a small point that if you had experience with people who bash religion, you'll see this type of language over and over again. Okay? Now, what does Allah say next? He misguides many with it, and He guides many with it. And this is read two ways. He misguides many with these analogies, or with this analogy, and He guides many with this analogy. Or, He misguides many with this Quran, and He guides many with this Quran. How does Allah misguide someone with the Quran? That's kind of a scary idea. The answer comes in the very next point. He says, He does not misguide anyone. وَمَا يُدِلُّ بِهِ إِلَّا الْفَاسِقِينَ. He does not misguide anyone except for the fasiq. This is another word to know. Okay. We've already had a few different terms for believers and rejectors. One is the person of taqwa. Another term that we've had is kufr or kafir. Another term we've had is nifaq. Here we have fasiq or fisq. So, another important term. So what do we mean by this? Our translation calls these people those who forsake the path. At the very end of ayah 26. The end of ayah 26. He does not cause anyone to stray except for those who forsake the path. What is a fasiq? In terms of the metaphor of a fasiq, the metaphor is of a river whose water is bursting beyond the banks. Okay? A river whose water is bursting beyond the banks. What is a fasiq? Someone who is crossing all the boundaries, who's breaking all the rules. That is a fasiq. Okay? So Allah does not misguide anyone except for the fasiq. And what are we saying? Allah does not misguide anyone except for the people of misconduct. that a key to misguidance is misconduct. Okay? And we'll define this misconduct in just a moment. So think of a fasik as someone who does wrong and has no shame. Even a hypocrite, a munafiq, has shame. A hypocrite will try to hide the fact that he or she's a hypocrite. Okay, I'm doing all these things that are very wrong, but I don't want anyone to know. And I hope all of us have that shame, right? Haya. This modesty, this embarrassment. I don't want anyone to know all the wrong that I'm doing. A fasik doesn't care. Okay. This is worse than being a hypocrite. Okay. Now you're advertising your sins. Yeah, that's really bad. So this is described three ways. Ayah 27. Number one, they break their pact with Allah after confirming it. Okay, what are these? These are the keys to misguidance. These are the attributes of the fasik. Number two, they split what Allah has ordered to be joined. Okay. And number three, they make mischief in the earth. So they break the pact with Allah after confirming it. Two, they split what Allah has ordered to be joined. And number three, they make mischief in the earth. Okay. These are attributes of the fasik. So what? Yes, sir. Iblis? Yeah, we'll be speaking about Iblis probably next week, inshallah. Yeah, a'udhu billah, yeah, Iblis. Yeah. Sorry? Although here we're speaking about human beings, but yeah, Iblis would be a person. We'll speak the story of Iblis next week, inshallah. Iblis al-Rajim. Yeah. What could this first attribute mean? Those who break the pact with Allah after joining it. There's a couple of readings here. One, think back. Or you going to say something, Brazil? Okay. One, think back to what we said about Al-Fatiha. We said in Al-Fatiha, the first surah of the Quran, every time I say, you alone we worship, you alone we ask for help, I'm making a pact with Allah. You alone we worship, you alone we ask for help. Okay. What else did I say? I'm making a goal. I'm saying to Allah, my goal is you alone we worship, you alone we ask for help. So one possibility is this. I've made a pact and I'm breaking it. Okay. A more common reading, go to Surah 7, I think it's Ayah 170 or 172. Alastu bi rabbikum. Yeah, Ayah 172 in Surah 7. So whoever's on that page, please tell us what page number this is. 107? Okay. Surah 7, Ayah 172. 106? 106, 107? Okay. So this is an event in our history. When did it take place? It took place in some sort of prehistory. Okay. When your Rabb drew all of the children of Adam from his loins, or actually from his back, and then he asks them, makes them testify, am I not your Lord? And they said, Bala, yes, we testify. This is so that you cannot say on the Day of Judgment that we never knew this. Okay. There is this event in our prehistory where all of us were rounded up, and then Allah asked us, am I not your Rabb? And we all confirmed that yes, you are. So how do commentators read this? That somewhere in our hard wiring, we do have a consciousness that Allah is our Rabb. This is what we speak of when we speak of the fitra. Everyone. In some sort of what we would call a metaphysical way or some sort of cosmic way. Okay? I mean, I don't think any of us remember this, but so what do we have in the fitra? Now, what do we mean by fitra? Fitra is the pure state that everyone is born in. Okay? Everyone is born in fitra. Islam, one of the names for Islam is Deen al-Fitra, the religion of your pure nature. Okay? There's a few points about your fitra. The first is that in our outlook, everyone is born with some sort of consciousness of Allah. That this is part of your natural design. that you have a consciousness of God? That everyone is born with this. You innately know of Allah. You innately have a connection with Allah. This is part of your natural design. In addition, you have a consciousness of right and wrong. Or we might say a consciousness of boundaries. You see this with a little baby. A baby knows when he or she is about to play with something that he or she is not supposed to touch. I mean, I remember with my first daughter, I used to see this. I'm just doing whatever, and suddenly my daughter's quiet. I'm like, what's going on? And she's holding some of my discs, right? This is way back when we used to have computer discs, right? And she's staring at me with this look. She knows she's not supposed to be holding these things, right? So what are we saying? That you have an innate sense of right and wrong. Okay. Now that can also be corrupted. Depending upon how your parents raise you, right? The famous hadith is that the Prophet, peace be upon him, is reported to have said that you are born on fitrah, and then your parents raise you as Christian, Jewish, etc., etc. The hadith, excuse me, the hadith is not you're born in Islam. The hadith is that you are born on fitrah. Okay? But it can also be purified. Excuse me. So you're born in this natural goodness that can be corrupted, but it can also be purified. And this is another important point, that in our tradition, we are saying that people are naturally good. That you're born naturally pure, naturally good. Next week, inshallah, we'll also speak about this issue of original sin. We have no concept of original sin in our tradition. We'll discuss how that plays out. Okay, so what are we saying here? That the path or the key to misguidance is misconduct. It's being a fasiq. And one way to be a fasiq is to break the pact with Allah after you've already confirmed it. Okay? And so one way people understand is every time I'm reciting Al-Fatiha, if I'm breaking that commitment I made to Allah. Or this deeper pact that I've made with Allah that is somewhere within my hardwiring. The second, you split what Allah has ordered to be joined. What can that mean? What is it? What are some things that Allah has ordered us, or would perhaps order us to join, and we might split apart? What do you think? Yeah, the big one is your family, right? That so far Allah has not given us anything here. We've only gone through maybe 3 pages of Al-Baqarah. Later on, we might see that it's important to keep your family ties. Okay. Third is they make mischief in the earth. Okay. So look at these 3 relations. One is your relationship with Allah. 2, your relationship with humanity, starting with your family. 3 is your relationship with the earth. Okay. Sure, Jazakumullah. I appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, so what is the key to misguidance? It's misconduct in your relationship with Allah, misconduct in relationship with humanity, and misconduct in relationship with the earth. What could that mean? Misconduct, creating mischief in the earth. What are some possibilities? Pollution might be a big one. This is something that concerns me. In a given day, on a normal day, I drive 100 miles. Right? Drive from here to here. Today I went from Orland Park to Rogers Park, and then I came to Skokie. I think I went to somewhere else even in between. I'm driving all over the place, and I just keep wondering, how much pollution am I creating? And this becomes an issue of priorities. I'm going to basically do some teaching, so hopefully there's some barakah there too, but inshallah. But yeah, think about what today we speak quite a bit about pollution. Mischief in the earth also might mean corruption, right? Social corruption. So What is it here? Allah does not misguide anyone except for the fasiqs. The fasiqs have these three attributes. And what does it say at the end? These people are losers. Ula'ika humul khasirun. Okay? These people are the opposite of the people of taqwa. Because what did we say about the people of taqwa? Ula'ika ala hudam min rabbihim wa ula'ika humul muflihun. These are the people of guidance and success. So the people of taqwa have guidance and success, and the fasiqs have misguidance and loss. Okay? Loss in the akhirah, and perhaps even loss in this world. So they might have material success, but they're not going to have the actual, what we spoke about, that sense of gratitude and understanding. So a double loss. So that is the key to misguidance. And understand this point even further, that the default relationship that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that Allah Most High has with everyone is guidance. Like the hadith, if you come to Allah walking, then what? Allah comes to you as though He's running. If you come to Allah handspan, it's that Allah comes to you in arm's length. If you take the path of guidance, the doorways to guidance open up really, really wide. If you take the path to misguidance, that path also opens up for you. It won't open up for you as wide, but still it will open up for you. How? Through your misconduct. Okay. Misconduct is the key to misguidance. And think of this very, very seriously. How many times in the day do I do something wrong? Okay? Or how many times in the week do I do something wrong? It's only the mercy of Allah that I don't start going astray further. Right? Otherwise, I might do something wrong, and then, bam, it's so serious that it knocks me off the path of guidance. So we also have, and I might have shared this last time, an important instruction. We find something similar in the hadith literature. This is Surah 41. Ayah 34. Anytime you do something wrong. Okay, so we all do wrong in our own capacities. Okay. Good and evil cannot be equal. Repel the evil with what is good. And then he between whom and you there was hatred will become your intimate friend. Okay. So, anytime you do something wrong, big or small, as fast as you can, follow it up with a good deed. Do some sort of a good deed anytime we do something wrong. Why? Why should we do a good deed after we've done something wrong? All right, fair. Go for it, Sophia. So then, hopefully, the good deed will replace the bad deed. Absolutely. What else? What else? Usually, if you do a bad deed, you're often going to see yourself doing another bad deed right after that. Okay? If I tell a lie, a'udhu billah, often what do I have to do? I often have to tell another lie to support my lie. Right? So what are you doing? You're breaking that path. You've begun to go down a bad path, and you're stopping it. Okay? I might, if I do a bad deed, I might even begin to develop the taste for that bad deed. You know, like when you have a smoker, first time a person smokes, it's nasty. Second time smokes, it's nasty. Maybe 10th time, you start developing the taste for the cigarette. Okay? So if you keep doing something that is not good for you, something that is unhealthy for you, eventually you're going to start developing a taste for it. It's going to feel sweet to you, okay, even though it's not. So what are you doing? You're sort of blocking that before that can happen. Sorry? Good begets good, another important point. Like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala teaches us, what else can be the reward for goodness except for goodness? So keep that point also in mind to help make sure we don't fall into this path. The key to misguidance is misconduct. Okay? And we also know a believer is not someone who can have bad conduct. You cannot get closer and closer to Allah and still have bad conduct. Okay? So that is part of our journey. One way we describe our journey is increasing gratitude. Another way we are describing our journey is to do more and more good. Okay? Any questions about anything we've covered? Okay, we're getting into some heavier and heavier material. Again, think of that point that I raised in the last few weeks. If I'm introducing Islam to people, I will talk about happy things. But when Allah is introducing Islam, first He speaks about Al-Fatiha, which is a happy surah. Then He speaks about the people of taqwa, and this is a happy concept. But right after that, He starts speaking about kafirs, which is very serious, rejectors. Then He speaks about hypocrites, which is very serious. And what is one lesson we can take from here? That the material we are discussing is very serious material. And what is it that makes it so serious? It's all about how you live your life. And there's basically nothing more serious than that. Okay? And then, what will you do with your afterlife? Which in some ways might even be more important, more serious. Any questions? Anything at all? We will probably, if time permits, do our circle every week. So get used to it, inshallah. We'll get into the habit of wishing each other good. But otherwise, that's all I have for today. Let's make a short dua. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. So the translation, سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك, glory, or Allah is the Most High, you are the Most High, O Allah. وبحمدك, gratitude and praise are to you. نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت, we bear witness that there is no God but you. نستغفرك, we seek your forgiveness. ونتوب إليك, and we turn to you. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. May Allah reward you all for your participation and your attendance, as well as for doing the May Allah reward you assignment. And we will take it from there. Okay, wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Okay.